Hello and welcome back. Today is gear day here at the shop. Gonna go through all my guitars and kind of explain them to you. See what I have. Okay, off to the bench. And what makes this one rather rare is because it's an 86, it has the dove motive on the headstock. The dove motive was only used in 85 and 86 and on the 400 series mainly. So it's a fairly rare that way, and because of it being left-handed, that makes it even a little more rare. I was at a party playing and it came my turn to do the hot knives, so I flipped it around on my back and the strap peg came out, which sent the guitar from shoulder height down onto a tile covered concrete floor and put quite a little ding in it. Now, as I say, this was my first guitar. I bought it in 1986 fresh off the wall. Went into a guitar store in the little town I grew up in, and this was the only left-handed guitar they had in the whole shop. Now it's a 420L, fairly the beginner model, low end, but it has served me well over the years. I actually played it without, well, when this happened, it split from here around to about here. That was all pushed out, and this was pretty much flat over that little wee spot there. I even left it like that for probably about 30 years or so before I finally pulled it out. Went in through the sound hole with some Elmer's white glue, glued, put some big heavy books on it. I didn't even clamp it. Anyways, I didn't even clamp it. I just put some big heavy books on it, left it for a couple of days, and I've been playing it ever since then. Other than that, it had very high action, and I didn't know anything about guitars. I play only for my own pleasure. I don't play in a band or anything like that. So all those years, it had very high action, and I believe that contributed to my carpal tunnel, but big deal. Anyways, so about a year or so ago, about 3 years ago or so, I started doing my own setups, and I brought it down as low as I could. Let's just check the height and see where it is. So in millimeters, we have at the 12th about 175, 185, 185. So between 185 and 2 millimeters. That's even a little high for what I usually keep it. I usually keep it at 175 across the board, but that's fine with me. So anyways, that's number one, 1986 Yamaha FG420-L with the dove motif. So in 1986, I moved out of my small little town and moved to a bigger town in southwestern Ontario. And so I decided I needed an electric guitar. So I went into the shop one day, hanging on the wall, 1987, made in Japan, Fujigen, E-Series Squier Stratocaster. Once again, being left-handed, fairly rare. And the mid-80s, 87 year of the Squier Stratocaster, especially the ones made at Fujigen, were a very good. They were still considered a budget guitar. As a matter of fact, the left-handers in this age had no Fender markings on it at all. All it says on the headstock is just Fender and the made in Japan and the E7 series number. I've had it apart inside and out, and there's no markings, not on the tuners. All they say is just made in Japan. They don't say Fender like some of them do. I've had the neck off. There's nothing in behind there. So the only modification that I've done to it is I have shielded it, and that is it. All the pickups, The potentiometers and the switch are all original. The only thing changed on it are the strings. And other than that, as I say, I've shielded it. So that is my prize Stratocaster. 1987 Squier, made in Japan, E-Series Squier Stratocaster. So those remained my two basic guitars for many, many years, from 1986 and 87 until COVID hit. And I was working from home, remote, out in the bush, at a little cabin. Anyways, I was looking for something new. All these years I had been looking for a 12 string. And with being left-handed, you don't just find them in the stores anywhere, especially through the 80s and 90s and even the aughts, and in smaller towns. So I eventually saw one of these on YouTube. It's a Seagull S12 Coastline. And I decided that's what I would like to have. So I went on the website for a Canadian guitar company called Long and McQuaid. And there was one down in Moncton out in the East Coast for sale. And I asked them if they would have it shipped up so I could have a look at it. And they said, well, yeah, but you're going to have to pay for the shipping to come up here. And I went, no. That was in the fall. In the spring, I decided, yeah. So I went back, and sure enough, it had sold. So I contacted Seagull and said, I would like a left-handed S12 Coastline. And they explained to me that they were not making left-handed 12 strings at all anymore, let alone the Coastline. So I went back on the internet and found this one on eBay in Tennessee. So I'm not the type of person to buy things online, but it's a 12 string left-handed, gotta do it. So I did. I bought it, had it shipped up from Tennessee, and I have had it ever since and love it. There's nothing like the sound of a 12 string guitar. This has been my mainstay. It was in perfect shape when I bought it. There are a few little scratches and dings here and there because it is a solid cedar top with a satin finish. So there's no gloss finish, which actually protects it a little more. The satin finish does not protect as much. Plus, if you got a solid cedar top, solid cedar is soft. So it marks very, very easily. It's got a little bit of a belly here, which I will have to look into at some point, whether I do the bridge doctor or take it to a professional luthier and have them look at it. I'm starting to work on the guitars a little bit myself, but that is not something I'm prepared to do. I do have a replacement saddle and nut because 12 string left-handed and a 1.8 wide. It's the extra wide neck on this one. So I went to Seagull and had them send me one extra ones. So I do have replacements of that. And there is nothing like the sound of a 12 string. If you don't have one, go out and play some first off if you can. If you're left-handed, you're probably just going to have to go ahead and try and buy one somewhere. But anyways, this is a 2012 S12 Coastline by Seagull, which is under the Godin family. You just gives me a little chubby just playing it any time. And that's when I got that one, as I said, in 2021 or so. And then I went a few more years before I decided, well, it was at that point that I started working on them, doing the setups and, getting into it that way. And so I got all of these, my Yamaha FG420 and my Stratocaster Squier and my S12 Coastline all set up. And then they were set up and nothing else to do with them other than change the strings. And so I decided it was time to buy something else. And I was online on Facebook one day, and I ran into this 2002 Seagull S6+Burst. Now, it is a 2002, but this one has an interesting story where it got lost or was not used or whatever. The first person that actually bought it from the store was in 2021. So its actual manufacture date was in the mid of 2001, but it's a 2002 model. But it was never sold to anybody until 2021. So that person bought it, had it about a year, had it out of the case maybe once or twice, decided they didn't want to be a guitarist. They just weren't interested in it enough to play. So I picked it up at Christmas time in 2022, and literally you could tell by looking at the fretboard, and even now looking at it, it has very, very little use on it. So it's a brand new guitar, even though it was 20 years old. So as I say, it's basically a brand new guitar. I'm not sure I was going to keep this one myself, but I think I might now. I'm getting used to the extra wide neck. This has the 1.8 width neck as well. So I'm getting used to that a little more than the narrow neck. I do play certain songs on the narrow neck that work better that way, but once again, I went through the setting it up. I've got the saddle shaved way down. Try to get the string height as low as possible for my weak wrists. Anyways, this one plays very, very nice, as I say, but it's brand new. It has kind of a brand new feel to it. It hasn't been matured. It hasn't matured as guitars do with extra play. As you play them longer and longer, they sound better and better. This one is still new sounding. So once again, I went through getting it all set up, which is what I like to do. And then I decided I should keep looking. And I was starting to develop a taste for the golden line, the Seagull. And at that point, once again on Facebook, I found this 2009 Cedar Antique Burst by Art and Luthier, another golden company. Now, I picked this one up for a little over, what was it? Well, I picked this one up for about $175 or something like that. It was from a person in the area that just had too many guitars, wasn't playing it, which is what I'm getting to now. Anyways, once again, I just wanted a new guitar. I wanted something to do YouTube videos on, which I have done a few on this one. Now, as I say, this is the entry level. The rosette is actually glued on. It's a surface mount rosette. And as I say, it's still the 175, the narrow neck on it and that. But it is a solid cedar top, laminated cherry sides and back, maple neck, all the golden specs basically. Solid cedar, all the other two goldens there as well. Laminated wild cherry, maple, rosewood, tusk, and probably plastic pegs, who knows. But once again, this one I like the sound of better than the S6 actually. But there again, that's because it has matured. It was played, it was used to the point where somebody got a little exuberant with the pick up in this area here, and there's a bunch of marks on it. All I've done was gone over it with the fretboard oil and it will deaden off those marks fairly good. They're starting to come back now because probably it's starting to dry out. But that's where, and there was one big ding right there. Other than that, and these here scratches up here, it's in fairly immaculate shape too. And as I say, it's matured, so it does sound rather well. Double check that. Is that scratches or just possibly a scratch on there as well? Solid cedar, what are you gonna do? Anyways, that is the end of my acoustics. I got one more electric that I just picked up about a month or two ago, and that is a Barracuda Stratocaster. Now, this was a very cheap guitar. I picked it up for $100 Canadian. I got this guitar, a 15-watt V-Tone GM108 practice amp, the cord, a stand, 3 how-to books, and 2 right-handed pick guards, one of them housing 3 pickups, a tone, a volume pot, and the 5-way switch. So all in addition to this. Now I picked this up basically to do some work on it. When we got it and brought it home, there was like over 3mm action at the 12th. The nut was way too high. So the problem was that you couldn't make it sound right. As soon as you hit any chord at all your notes went sharp because you were pushing the strings way too far. So it was supposed to be for a student. The guy who sold it to me said, remember, it's a student guitar and that. Well, a student would have given up because you can't make chords sound right. So the person would have just thought they weren't made for guitar when actually the guitar wasn't made for them. So when you get a guitar, make sure you get it set up properly. I learned from my old Yamaha, which had too high and carpal tunnel. Now that's probably not the only reason I got carpal tunnel. Hockey, work, blah, 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 everything probably contributed to it. But playing guitar that long, squeezing all the time, and I type for a living, so that probably didn't help either. But anyways, when you get a new guitar, get it properly set up or learn how to set it up yourself. That's what I did. I haven't had any my guitars taken professionally set up because I learned how to do it myself. It's not that tough. Do some YouTube videos. I have a bunch that'll at least get you started. I'm not a luthier. I'm just an old guy with too much time on his hands. So anyways, that is where we are now. So now I have the 12 string, 3 6 strings, 2 electric, both Strats. I want a Telecaster. I really want a Telecaster, but I want a cheap Telecaster. I've been checking Facebook out, and there's some that are just way too overpriced. There was an SX that's on there, but the person wants just too much for it, and I'm wanting it to do work on and possibly send it down the road. The Telecaster I'm probably going to keep, but it was for too much money. If I was going to get that, I would be better off to spend another $100 and get a brand new Squier Affinity. Now the problem with that is you get a brand new guitar, how much can you do to it? But there again, it's also a low-end guitar, so that probably is going to need some setting up. And I may eventually do that if it comes to it. But anyways, that's my video for this week. I've done a lot of work on them lately, so I've got them pretty much all where I want them. I'm going to start probably restringing them soon. Maybe next week we'll take a look at the Yamaha and make sure that it is in good shape and ready for the summer. With that, I'd like to thank you for watching. Share, like, subscribe, leave a comment below if you got any questions or statements. Check out my channel. There might be some videos on there that would interest you. As I say, I'm not a luthier. I'm just an old guy with too much time on my hands, so I just play with it. And I try to teach people that as long as you don't get really goofy. Now, before you start cutting, or I've never replaced any of the inner workings on these. I've shielded both my Strats, but eventually down the road, I'm thinking I might upgrade this one. It's hard to do though, because this one seems to have very little usage on it too, probably because of how badly it was set up, that nobody played it a lot. Fretboard is still pretty clean and clear. So maybe I'll just mess with it. I am basically a strummer and a cowboy chord guy, so I am starting to try to get into a bit of lead, slowly but surely, and this would be a good one to start on. That was the other thing we did. The frets on this one had kind of a coating or something on it. They were flaking off and they were rough, and so we went over it, taped it all off, went over it with the 4/0 steel wool. I took the neck off it and got away from all the electronics. Don't be steel wooling the frets around any of these electronics, because you're going to get little small shards, and these are magnets in the pickups, so they will, you don't want small metal shards in your electronics. So yes, I did. I took the neck off of the guitar and did the frets then. That was the same day that we shaved down the nut, because the nut was way too high, and even now I'm getting a little twang off of this one. This nut needs to be looked at, and maybe that's the next video we do. Get rid of the twang. I know it's up here because whenever you're fretting anywhere, you don't get the twang, but yeah, that extra wow afterwards, that's what we got to get done, and that is because the nut isn't cut properly. So we'll do that and see what we can do about fixing that. Maybe I'll do another video right after this. Yeah, there we go. Anyways, thanks for watching. Share, like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Tell me what I did right, what I did wrong. I know I do things wrong. I'm just an old guy with too much time on my hands. I am not a luthier. So we'll catch you next time. That's going to drive me nuts until I fix it. Have a good day. Thanks for watching. We'll catch up with you next time.